Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Ascension Teachings. I'm your host Peter Maxwell Slattery, and today we've got my good friend James Gilliland with us. James, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me on the show.
No worries. So do you want to just give people just a brief overview? There's so much that you do, but just sort of a brief overview of yourself. You've got the ECETI establishment, the ranch, which is world famous with, tens of thousands of people that have been there and visited it. It's a paranormal hotspot, but you're somebody that I guess helps people help themselves through clearings, inner sensitivity practices and things like that. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's good to talk about where I come from, and I'm not saying it to kind of embellish who I am or anything, because we're all equal. But what happened when I was 5 years old, I was dying in the hospital, and I had a being appear to me all dressed in blue, and she would stroke my head and talk to me and pulled me through. And doctors kept telling my parents, we don't think he's going to make it through the night. And then so I kept coming out of it. And then as a disclaimer, I'm not Catholic, but it turned out to be Mary. And so she's a universal being. She's here for all the children, everybody. And they've transcended all religious and cultural boundaries. They're beyond all that. But that was the first part of my awakening. And then, I went through school and everything else and got all that smashed down and out of
social engineering.
All the social engineering that goes on. And then I had another near-death experience at around the age of 25 or so. And I had the drowning, and I went through the tunnel that everybody talks about, but I didn't stop to talk. I went all the way till I reached that golden plane of bliss. And, I realized there is a God, but it's nothing like we're told. It's not a male, it's not a female, it's not a little old man with a beard and a laptop that takes notes. And it doesn't have an ego. It's beyond all that, So
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, so I come at things from the top down. I already made that experience. And so I start experiencing all the other dimensions on the way back to the physical. And so it's kind of hard in the UFO community because they want to keep everything nuts and bolts and prove it. And it's either all negative or it's all good or it's all, it's all abduction stuff. It's all, they have so many boxes that they have. And, some say it's time travel, some say it's, multi-dimensional stuff, but it's all the above.
Yeah,
it's all going on.
Definitely.
And that's the thing about the main problem in ufology is they're not taking a spiritual approach to it. They don't realize it's a multi-dimensional thing, and on the path to enlightenment, you're going to start experiencing these beings. They come with it, and we need to teach people tools how to heal unseen negative influences and maintain your self-authority and things like that. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm coming from helping people to remember their own past lives and other connections with these other beings, and as well as tools, so they can keep themselves clear. And so even after the near-death experiences and everything, I started studying with lamas and yogis and every process-oriented therapy you could think of, and kind of streamline that into a very quick process. It's very powerful, very fast. And so I realized that the only reason people are not having their own personal connection with Source or God or whatever you want to call it, Creator, Great Spirit, is that they have these layers around them of wounds and traumas and wrong conclusions from past experience, as well as all the social engineering, and to keep them separate. And after that near-death experience, what happened was I was in commercial real estate. I had my own office. I had a beautiful house. I had a 280Z at the time, which is awesome. We had boats and all that stuff and trucks, and and I lived with a couple other guys, and we had it made according to social consciousness, according to that program. But when I came back into that, I go, I can't be in this anymore. And
was that instantaneous? When you came back?
Yeah. When I came back, I just said, I went back to how I was as a child, where I could hear what people were thinking, and I could feel what they were feeling, and then what they were saying was something different, and I was really having trouble because they weren't congruent. And when I came back and I couldn't be in that energy, and in commercial real estate, a lot of it's a dog eat dog, a lot of competition, a lot of money involved in that. So people are really trying to get in and sue you and steal from you. And it was just that whole reality. I just said, I can't do this anymore.
And it took was it 3 waves that smashed you? Like they were freak waves that came out of nowhere, weren't they? Like 20 something feet?
27 feet were the tallest ones. Yeah, but they went back and the Contact has begun 1. I know you did Contact has begun 2, and that was amazing, the job you did on that. But the in Contact has begun 1, they actually went back and did the research and researched my story, and they found the exact dates, the times, and the size of the waves and everything. And they said, yeah, you check out,
What beach was that? That was
Little Corona.
That's it, yeah, because
Right next to the wedge.
I added that in the documentary for part 2. Yeah. So that's a big surfing spot, or like body surfing area, or
well, the thing about the wedge, it's a neck breaker. It's a shore break, and there's big waves, and people go there to say, yeah, I did the wedge and everything, but it's like Little Corona's better because it's a longer wave and it's beautiful body surfing. And when I was doing it, I was, in high school, I was captain of the water polo team. I was on the swim team. I thought I was bulletproof in the water. And I was really humbled by these waves.
And then you get
nowhere to go, Yeah, you get hammered like a fly, this. Next thing you know, the water's being all sucked out, and you're running to try to dive under the wave, and it broke right on me and dislocated my shoulder and swatted me like a fly. And then you didn't know what was up because you're tumbling in the water, and I didn't know which way was up, And then finally, I just kept thinking about, go to to the light, basically,
And you actually went to the light.
And finally I just let go, and I was out of body. And I don't know what happened to my body after that. I have no idea, because I was up in these other dimensions hanging out. And I had a conversation with the source, whatever you want to call it. And, I the first thing I asked was, how can I stay? And it came back to me, it said, I never told my children when to come or go. That's free will, And I go, wait a second, this isn't the God I've been told about, It's like you have to earn, all this stuff. So I go, well, how can I earn the right to stay? And it came back to me and said, you cannot earn what is given freely and unconditionally. So I'm having to let go of these images of God that I was given, through all social engineering. And then the last thing I said was, I really want to serve, how can I serve? And, I just wanted to give back because I was so in awe and in gratitude of this consciousness and energy I was working with. And a lot of Christians go, well, that was a devil tricking you. It wasn't, it was just pure bliss. There was no judgment, no ego, nothing there. But So I said, I want to come back and teach people about the true nature of God, to dispel all these wrathful God images and all these other things that divide people from making their own personal connection. And so I hear As You Wish, and the next thing I know, I'm in my body, and these guys are pulling me out of the water. And they pulled me up on the water and just kind of dropped me, and they said, are you all right? And I said, yeah, but I wasn't all right. I couldn't even see. I was still blacked out, but I could talk, and then I passed out, and I woke up with all this water around me, that came out of me, to somebody calling my name. That was the extent of that, and it just totally changed my life. And then when I came back, I needed 2 or 3 days to recover, and when I came back, I had to reevaluate everything. And I walked away from everything. I got rid of the office, I got rid of my house, I got rid of everything, and gave a lot of things away. And I just said, I can't be around people. I need to go live I started off in the high desert and working on some construction projects where I was by myself most of the time. It was really good. And then I went to the Santa Cruz Mountains and lived in the redwoods there.
What led you to certain modalities or certain, I guess, teachers or yogis and lamas? What was the process of the next stage of going, all right, something's going on here?
Yeah.
Where did you go from there with that? Did it sort of just unfold, people come into your life and things like that?
Well, I was in Orange County at the time, and at the time there was nothing there. There was nothing there. I tried to find somebody, that could help me understand what was going on. And it was very materialistic there, and very, people would judge you by your job, the car you drove, the house you lived in. It was just wasn't
superficial.
Yeah, very superficial at the time. And there's other centers that have opened up since then, but I found this little psychic, this little old lady, and she was amazing. She'd do psychometry and hold your keys. And this woman comes in, and she hands her keys, and she goes, you're pregnant. And she goes, I thought I might be, And she said, you need to get really clear and with who you are and where you're going. And I was watching this lady just bam, nail this stuff. It was amazing, detailed information. So I gave her my keys, and she goes, you don't belong here. And I go, what? She goes, you need to get out of here. And I go, what do you mean? She goes, you're not going to be supported here, and you're not going to find what you're looking for. You need to go north. She said you need to go, and she said you need to be in the nature, and get really grounded. And so, it was amazing. She just nailed it. And I knew that was what I needed to do for my own survival at the time, because I was wide open. And I didn't know how to heal unseen negative influences. I would see them. I would see entities attached to people. And the entities, when I saw what they were doing, they knew I knew they would come after me. Mm-hmm. And, oh, God, it was a mess. It was a nightmare. So I lived in the forest. And when I was up in the forest, all the animals were coming to me. It was like a Bambi movie. The deer were coming up, and I had squirrels jumping on my shoulders and birds landing on me. It was crazy. And I felt really good there. And then I got grounded. I got really grounded. And then from there, I went and started teaching. And I went through the teachings of the Inner Christ. Mm-hmm. And beautiful foundational work there they do there. And I went through their self-mastery course, and I went through the Tibetan Foundation, and then I studied with yogis and lamas, and all the time when I went there, I didn't go there to look for something to worship outside of myself. I already had my own connection, but I needed a foundation for that connection. And so
had the tools and things
so
like
I got
that.
all these tools from all these people on how to heal unseen negative influences, how to maintain your self-authority, keep your energies clear, how to establish your own BS meter, so you can go, sorry, And one thing too is that when you have that connection, I hate to say it, but you are going to be hated in this field by a lot of people, because there's a lot of people that aren't authentic, and they know you can see right through them, and you see what their real intentions are and their agendas, and they come at you. They really, and you've experienced a lot of that here, in your work as well. But it comes with the territory, and eventually you have to just depersonalize it, keep doing your work. And I always just say, like I was talking about, thank you for establishing your character and your ignorance. Have a nice day.
So when did it come to light of the extraterrestrial presence? Because you weren't thinking about ETs at the time either, were you?
No. Well, I was raised in the desert, in the high desert, and we used to sleep outside at night all the time because it was really hot. And we just throw our sleeping bags out on the lawn. And we would sit up, my brother and I would sit up at night, and we'd see stuff that there's no way, it's not ours. These things would do zigzag patterns, and they'd stop, and they'd power up, and then disappear. And we saw a lot of that. And
did you see, like, you've said to me in the past, you saw a lot with your dad? Like, was your dad with you during that? Or were you and your brother having your own experience? Like, it was just all game on, like, everything happened?
We were having our own experiences, and we were getting, I don't want to say abducted, because it was the higher beings were coming.
Yeah, so it wasn't like
and helping us, and taking us up on the ships and back again. And my brother did a lot of regression about that and got all the information about it. And I just feel really comfortable with that connection. I don't. But my dad was interesting. My dad was raised in New Mexico, where all that activity was going on. A ship came down and landed on the highway, and he was the second car. There's a bread truck in front of him, landed on the highway. And they had all this missing time and all this stuff happen, and they kind of come out of it and they go, what just happened,
Was that like broad daylight?
Yeah, broad daylight. Yeah. And I'm sure there's records of this somewhere, but so that was one of his experiences. And he would actually pull a car over, and he'd tell us to get out as kids, and he said, look up, and there'd be 5 ships following the car.
Were they balls of light or saucers?
Yeah, like light saucers.
Yeah, so you'll see the field around them.
Yeah. And so what happened was, going back to your other question, I was doing an all-day meditation, and I was really deep in meditation, and I felt this beautiful energy coming in, just pure love, and very concerned about Earth and humanity and the consciousness and the environment here. And they're telling me, what we need to do and things like that. And so after they're done, I said, well, where are you coming from? What dimension are you coming from? And they said, we operate mainly on the 5th and 6th here, but we're actually on a ship, So I go, okay, I lost it. I need to go get grounded. So I was going outside to grab a shovel. I was going to plant some trees. And I planted over 7,000 trees at the ranch there, and so I was going to plant some trees and get grounded again. And my sister and her friends came up banging on the door, and they go, "Did you see it? Did you see it?" And I said, "See what?" And they said, "The ship." And I went, "Oh God!" I go, "Now I have to incorporate the ship into these higher dimensional beings that are so loving and so spiritually and technologically advanced, and they have." Some are physical ships and they have physical bodies. Some are energy ships and they have energy bodies. Some are light ships and they have magnetized light bodies. And so there's beings, as you raise the frequency, there's beings all along that vibrational continuum. And it's like you access them by going within. It's not by you see the ship, yeah, that's great, but who are they and why are they here and what's your connection? Those are the things we need to be asking. And we are them and they are us. And it's hard for people to understand, but we all exist in this sea of consciousness, and they're in the same sea that we are, and they have access to more of it. So they have more access to the consciousness and energy because they're more expanded. And they're of a different frequency. They might be just out of our visible light spectrum that we can see, And so they might be walking right alongside you, and you can't see them because we, like what you always say, we can see this little tiny piece of the electromagnetic light spectrum, and there's all these things happening in the infrared and the ultraviolet and gamma X-ray.
Like, after the experience of incorporating the extraterrestrials and things like that, had you had the ranch by then, or were you sort of at the stage of already setting up was it originally like a self-mastery institute, or what was it originally that E-SETI was?
Well, what happened is I was in Santa Cruz, California, and I had a house there, and I took the house that I owned in Fullerton when I was down there, and I sold it, and then bought a beach house actually, and it was ridiculously cheap at the time compared to now.
Yeah.
I mean, I bought this house for like $80,000, and now it's like $5-6 million. So it's crazy. Should have held on to it, but anyway, I bought a house down there, and I remodeled it and cleaned it all up and made a duplex out of it. But so I went there and I was having classes, and we were doing inner sensitivity training classes and self-mastery classes and things like that, and teaching people safeguards for pure channeling and things like, because it's sad, but for a while there in the late 70s and on, everybody became a channel. Everybody was channeling this and that.
So it was really big back then?
Yeah.
Especially in America? Was it an American thing, or was it a worldwide sort of thing? Or just...
It's amazing American, but it was kind of world. I think it was happening in other countries too as well. But one of the problems is that people weren't taught the tools, the safeguards for pure channeling. And so they would let other entities come in. And these entities would come in, they'd start flattering them and tell them they're the chosen one. You're going to heal the earth, and you were Jesus in a past life. And I've had 5 or 6 Jesuses come up to the ranch. But it's, and unfortunately that they end up developing a huge spiritual ego. And that was the downfall. And they kind of crashed, and they didn't know why they crashed. And because they didn't keep it humble, they didn't keep it simple, because the bottom line is, when people try to flatter you and build you up and say you're the chosen one, they're actually separating you from others. They're separating you from the
boosting
source.
The ego, and the source won't do that.
Yeah. And it's the opposite. You have to be nothing. I was talking to people, and I said the hardest thing you can ever learn is to be nothing. And And they go, what do you mean? I said, if you're nothing, if you're no one, there's no one to defend, there's no one to argue with, there's no one. You have to become nothing, because out of the nothing comes everything. And when you realize that and understand that, you realize that you're not this body, you're not this personality, that you're so much more. And that body and that personality is actually separating you from the whole. So when I first started opening up, I had a being coming to me named Uad, which was my soul. And he's this big Viking warrior, and so he shows up, and I'm going, oh my God, who's this guy? And he goes, I'm your soul, so it's an aspect of me that has been around forever. And so the next thing, this other being comes up and appears to me, and his name's Tasamara. Rapasad was his name, and he just goes by Toss. We kind of nicknamed him Toss. And he was coming and giving me all this information about exact times of dates of big earthquakes and changes and everything. And I was giving these prophecies out, and they were hitting right on the market, like you're doing,
Yeah, like you got date times, magnitudes of earthquakes,
Yeah.
like the big San Francisco event. You had a lot of
Seattle event. And
Yeah,
then
that one
Mount
as well.
Hood. I said Mount Hood's going to have a whole series of quakes on the Jeff Wren show. He goes, well, prove to me you can, do this. And I said, well, I don't do dog and pony shows.
Yeah. It just
But he
comes,
goes, well,
doesn't
what's
it?
going to happen
Yeah.
next? And I said, well, Mount Hood right next to us is going to have a series of earthquakes. And then next day they had 45 earthquakes there. Well, so what happened is that, so this guy shows up to me named Tasamara, and other beings started showing up to me and saying, I was you, in a past life. And I'm not going to mention their names because everybody's going to go, oh, it's like.
So these were other aspects of you communicating
and they're
with
very
yourself.
well known throughout history and things like that. But, I don't want to name drop or go into that stuff. But they started telling me, and so I'm having a meltdown. I'm having a full-on meltdown. I'm going, wait a second, here's James, sitting here. This Viking guy shows up and says, I'm you, I'm your soul. I've been around forever. Another guy comes up and says, I'm your Christ self, or whatever. Another guy comes up and says, I'm your I am. Another one comes up and says, I'm your God self, and cosmic. And so I'm having this meltdown. I'm going, who am I? Like, why am I here? What the hell? I don't know what's going on. And then so finally, Ezekiel came in, and he said, and so I asked the Andromedans, who's Ezekiel? And they said, he's the God of eternal bliss. And I said, can you explain more? And he said, it's actually a merge of Cassia, which I didn't know who Cassia was. I did research, and there's all these songs praying to Cassia and things like that. And Ezekiel of the past, and they merged and ascended. And so I said, I'm really having trouble. I said, everybody's saying I am you, and all these other aspects are coming in, and I'm having a meltdown here. And he just said to me, he said, it's all you. And I said, I get it. I said, it's all you. Because when you go within, you connect with the one consciousness that encompasses all consciousness on all planes and dimensions throughout the multiverse. And that's why all the masters, Jesus, everybody said the temple is within. Mm-hmm. That God is closer than the hair on your head. How can it be, if it isn't you, how can it be closer? And so the bottom line is, when you finally figure that out, it's a process where you start experiencing your multidimensional selves, and you have your ego has a panic attack, and then finally when you surrender and say I give up, all of a sudden you become all of it, so it's
Just processing it, taking that time to process
it's really
it.
rough. It's rough to process, but because I love what the yogis say, that all your personal problems come from thinking you're a person. So that journey, I kept seeing different levels of that interference, and kept moving up the continuum, and I go, wow. And I saw things, and I had to learn more tools, work with higher beings, different types of beings, and doing the clearings that we were talking about. And what I found out is, when you do the clearings, they're power tools. You have to plug them in. You don't do them from the ego; it doesn't work.
No, you have to
hook
heart.
up. Yeah, and we all have main teacher and guide. Some of them have some of us have several of them, and we can connect with them and say, hey, can you come in? I need some help. Do this clearing process, and they'll come in and they'll clear that stuff away.
Yeah.
But it's just stuff, It doesn't matter. People go, you got to own your stuff. Well, that's true in some sense, but also too, it's just stuff. It's not yours. It's just stuff, and stuff you've agreed upon.
What's something that's like easy for people to sort of like use as like an exercise? Like there's a clearing prayer on your website that people can go and use, and I highly recommend that as well.
Yeah.
It's very, you've probably got hundreds of thousands of people that have picked that up. A lot of people can't go to the ranch, and you've had tens of thousands of people there. So what is there any like sort of easy either visualization exercises or something along that line that people can use to, I guess, help them if they're not if they're not liking what they're feeling or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. So we do process-oriented therapy sessions there. We call them transpersonal release sessions. And there's a lot of people doing similar work, but we streamlined it, and it works very efficiently, very fast. And that helps you clear the patterns out of yourself and the wounds and traumas. And then we teach the healing technique, and it's very simple. You call on your main teacher and guide. If you don't know who that is, you can call on Jesus, Buddha, Mary, Kuan Yin. They're all working in these higher dimensions. It doesn't matter who. And you can bring them in, and when you do, you go through this prayer, and you welcome, all entities in love and light. You tell them they're healed and forgiven, lifted and enlightened. You tell them they're filled and surrounded in the Christ light and the Christ love, or the Buddha light, or the whatever you want to use. And then you ask the beautiful many to take them to their perfect place, So, and that happens because whatever you speak and whatever you're manifesting in alignment with these higher dimensional beings is happening in their world. So they are filled and surrounded with this light. They are taken away.
You're at that frequency.
Yeah, and if you're clairvoyant, you can actually see these light beams, these little dark balls, and these light beams come down and they go over the ball, and all of a sudden the ball gets lighter and lighter and lighter, and then they take them off. It's all about unity consciousness, and we have to get out of all those other programs, all that other social engineering that's done through religions, through governments, through TV and media and everything else. You got to get beyond all that to have this happen. And the people that are transcending all of that are the people that they're contacting, and because there is purposeful good in contacting you, and they will work with you. But if you want to run around with a camera and film a UFO or whatever else, somebody asked me, why are the UFOs coming here to the ranch? And I said, bait. Yeah, and they go, wow, that's kind of rough. And I go, no. I said, actually, what they do is when you see that UFO, all of a sudden you realize, they've been lying to me. I haven't been told the whole truth here. There's more to the universe than I've been told.
Yeah.
And that cracks the door. And once that door is cracked, people are going to go, curiosity is going to take you through that door. And it's all about frequency. And you don't ascend by trying to get out of here and leaving here. You ascend by loving everyone and everything, mastering judgment, including yourself. And that creates a quickening in the body. Even your physical body starts vibrating faster and faster, and then you go. So that's the path to ascension, but we aren't taught that. We're taught the opposite. Ascension is judging everything as evil, everything is bad, and I'm here and I'm going up this ladder, and then I'm out of here. It doesn't work that way.
Well, that's a good way to end this episode with ascension teachings, because that's what this is about, is going through our ascension process. We'll leave it there, James. Thank you for being on this episode and sharing the wisdom that you've got. And I recommend your meditations, your clearing technique, everything that James does is up at eseti.org. Highly recommend it. And there's a lot of practices and things, and even go to the ranch yourself and experience a self-mastery workshop, a Skywatch experience.
Ambassador
training. There's something nearly every weekend there when they're open. It's absolutely amazing. So thank you for your contribution to humanity. And
thank you.
Thank you to you all for watching, and keep an eye out for the next episode of Ascension Teachings.